everybody. Pastor Randy here. Welcome to Making It Simple. Great to be with you today as we kick off a brand new teaching, the blindness of doubt. What does that mean? Well, we're going to look through the eyes of Thomas, who many, of course, as time has gone by, have deemed as doubting Thomas. But what I want us to understand is the reality of why he was there, how he got to that place, and how honestly it's not that different from some of the things that we struggle with. We take our teaching, if you will, from John chapter 20, for those that are following along with their Bibles. John chapter 20, 24 through 29, we'll be addressing that, referencing that along the way. So as we begin this teaching, we're just really going to dive right in. Many know the story. Jesus has been crucified. The resurrection has taken place. And Thomas makes a comment. And it's a very, very bold comment, if you will. He says in John chapter 20, it says this: If I do not see the mark of the nails in his hands, put my finger in the mark of the nails, I will never believe. That's pretty strong words. Very strong words, in fact. We're going to backtrack just a little bit. We're going to look through this story and see what's going on. What we find as the other guys are sitting around and talking, Thomas, it says, was not with them during the moments after the resurrection. They were all kind of scattered. They were dealing with, this was an intensely emotional, overwhelming moment that everybody had gone through. Very traumatic, if you will, because they had seen something that was horrifying. And if it had been just anybody, it would have been horrifying, but it wasn't just anybody. It was Jesus. The very one that they had concluded, and rightly so, but they had concluded was the answer to everything. This was the Lord. This was the Messiah. This was the Son of God. This was the one that was going to fix everything, change their life. And now he's dead. If you understand it through that way, then we begin to paint a picture almost instantly that is beginning to fill the canvas with a self-portrait, because we begin to put ourselves in that place and we begin to think, well, how would I have reacted? I asked that in our last teaching that we've been going through the eyes of Peter. But here what we're finding is an emotional battle that so many struggle with today, because again, we live in a skeptical world. Everything is filled with questions. Every seemingly statement has a question mark behind it. Is that real? Did that really happen? Did they really say that? We could go on and on. But what we find, okay, is in this text, is Thomas has said that, right? But prior to this, it says that, but Thomas, one of the 12, was not with them when Jesus came. So he didn't see him after the resurrection. He was not one of the ones that witnessed this. He was not one of the ones that some that thought was the gardener and some was walking down the road to Emmaus. He wasn't part of that. And so it tells us here that the other disciples were telling him. So they found him, they've seen him, they've reconnected, whatever. And they told him, we've seen the Lord. They were so excited. They were worked up, man. They were all excited about what had happened, because Jesus had returned, just as he said. And so that we'll talk more about that as we break into this lesson. But Thomas, they wanted him to know, because he had not experienced what they had. He had not seen what they had. But the response that he gave, it wasn't one of joy. The response that he gave wasn't one of, oh man, that's so great. And no, actually. The response that he gave was one of doubt. As we said earlier, he said, if I don't see it, I'm not believing it. If I don't see, in fact, if I don't put my finger, if I can't touch it, if it don't become tangible and real, I will never believe. What do we learn about Thomas in this moment? He's human. The trauma of the crucifixion. See, friends, it affected all of them. We've never seen anything like that. When I was on the road, and I know I reference that career a lot, but friends, you got to understand, when you've been a part of something that was so real, it impacts you forever. This soldiers that have served, guys that have served on the road, everybody that's been through anything, that you'll never forget those things. And I remember certain scenes and certain areas that I worked in and left with visuals that are forever stamped into my brain. I can't escape that. They were real because they were right there. They were ugly and brutal and violent and all. They just saw something and witnessed something that was traumatic, that was unbelievable. And they didn't want to believe that it had happened because this was Jesus. This wasn't supposed to happen. Although he had told them it had to. But they didn't get that. They didn't understand that. We're not giving anybody a pass. But at the same time, we're also beginning to understand the humanity of all of this. Most of us learn in this journey that we call life, and that part of that journey is doubt. I want to ask you that are listening today, have you ever doubted anything? Even if you were absolutely sure, have you ever think, well, maybe. Did I turn the stove off? You got the keys in your hand. Did I leave them on the counter? We've done that. You've studied, you've ready for the test, you see all the questions, and you know that the answer is, X, Y, Z, whatever. You know that the answer is that, but yet still you check that box or you fill that blank in, and sometimes you think, is that right? I want to make. That's part of the journey, friends. That is part of the journey. So we see Thomas's response. I will never believe if I don't see it, if I don't touch it, if I don't experience it. I will never believe. Was he angry? No. I think what we can figure into this, if we understand how this is presented, he was overwhelmed. He was overwhelmed. See, as we are introduced to this, it tells us that he was not with them. Okay? What we also read in prior chapters, prior verses, as the others, well, they didn't believe it either at the very moment. They all felt like it was over. They all struggled. We read on the road to Emmaus that they're talking in past tense. Well, we thought he was the one. We thought he was the answer. They were wrestling with what to do now. It's kind of over. The one that we thought was it is gone. But he had told them, I'll be back in 3 days. So what we find is that doubt is more of an emotional response rather than a reversal of position. And we're going to leave with that today because we're going to get really deep into this, and I want you to look at Thomas through our eyes. And I believe we're going to conclude a different point than oftentimes what we're taught. And we're going to understand the blindness of doubt. God bless you. Lord willing, I'll see you tomorrow as we start this brand new teaching right here at Making It Simple.